The sky in the wasteland is always gray, as if someone was rubbing it with a dirty rag. The sun is hidden behind the thick radiant cloud, leaving only a little sick yellow light. I squatted beside the iron skins of raw slabs, holding a broken crowbar in my hand, staring at the ruins in front of me. This place may have been a factory or something in the past. Now there is only a pile of collapsed steel-reinforced concrete, and a lot of broken parts. My name is Lin Canyang, and I am a scavenger who stutters by stuttering some valuable things from these ruins. There is a bit of evil here today, and there is a strange smell in the wind. It is not the stinky smell of the common radiation dust, but it is a bit like burnt wires mixed with something rotten. I snaked my nose and tightened my crowbar. I felt a little hairy in my heart, but my feet still didn't stop. Mixing on the soil is like seeking death when you are young. No matter what strange smell it has, I can dig up a piece of unbattered circuit board or half a bottle of unexpired purified water, so I will find it. I carefully rolled over a pile of collapsed walls, and when I stepped on something under my feet, I made a crisp click sound. When I looked down, I saw that it was a broken mechanical arm, with several broken wires connected to half of it, as if it had been torn off by something. I curled my lips. This thing is not worth the money. It only takes a pound of waste iron to exchange a few broken cans. It is not cost-effective to carry it back. I continued to walk forward, my ears kept urging, hearing if there was any silence around me. There are not only different wild animals on the waste soil, but also those who are more cruel than wild animals. At any time, they may come out from some corner and give you a knife to the back of your brain. After about 10 minutes of walking, a big pit appeared in front of me, as if it was blown out by something, and there were still burnt marks on the edge. I squatted down, lifted up a blackened stone on the edge, and heard the news, with a faint energy scent. I'm familiar with this taste. I have seen several people selling energy cores in the black market before, and the goods in their hands are full of this taste. When I was excited, I rushed around and looked around, and I was sure that no one followed me, so I jumped into the pit. The bottom of the pit was covered with gravel and soil, and a few cracked metal pipes were exposed. I pulled it a few times with a crowbar and found a broken plaque with a few blurry numbers and indicator lights left on it. Although it was bad, this old antique could change something on the black market. I stuffed it into the rag bag behind my back and continued to dig. As a result, I just hit a big stone, and a low buzzing sound suddenly came from underneath, like a machine that started. I was shocked and stepped back a few steps, lifted up the crowbar in my hand, staring at the stone. The sound became more and more resonant, and a faint blue light appeared under the stone, as if the current was jumping. My heart beats as fast as a drum, and there are a bunch of thoughts in my brain. What is this? Trap? Or some kind of unseen change? But I didn't move under my feet. I've been mixed up in the wasteland for so many years. I know that curiosity can kill people, but it can also make you lose money. After a few seconds, the sound stopped and the blue light disappeared. I swallowed, walked over carefully, and touched the stone with a crowbar without reacting. I gritted my teeth and simply lifted the stone open, and a metal shell as big as a palm was exposed below. The surface was filled with symbols that I couldn't understand, and a transparent crystal as big as a fist was embedded in the middle, with blue light flowing inside, as if there was life. Bottle, what's this? I couldn't help but mutter, and my hand stretched over unconsciously. When I touched the crystal, a cold feeling rolled up with my fingers, and my whole arm numbed, as if it was being hit. I suddenly turned my hand back, my heart panicked, but my eyes still couldn't leave that thing. This thing is definitely not simple. It may be a certain energy core, or even the lost technology in the process. If I could sell it, don't say I could eat it, I could be a big deal in the black market. But at this moment, a rapid pace suddenly came from afar, and a few rough voices called Fong. I felt a tight heart, and I tightly stuffed the metal shell into my bag, squatted down and hid behind the gravel beside the pit. The sound of his feet was getting closer and closer, and there were 3 or 4 people. One of them was very thick, as if his throat was worn by sandpaper. That little bastard must not be able to run far away. I just saw him coming here, find him, and take over the things. I bit my teeth and realized the sound. It was a guy named Haywin, a man named Iron Claw, who was responsible for chasing scavengers like me and snatching their goods. Haywin is the largest plunderer on the Wasteland. He is full of life-threatening crazy dogs. He will snatch people when he sees them and take things when he sees them. No one dares to mess with them. I didn't expect them to be eyeing me. I guess someone just saw me entering the ruins and went back to report the letter. As my feet were getting closer and closer, I held my breath and my brain flew quickly. If you run away, you can't run away. This helper carries a different dog. His nose is more spiritual than anything else and he can't hide for long. The only way is to try it out and take action first while they haven't found me. I touched the dagger on my waist. Although this thing was broken, it was sharp and it was still fine to stab someone. Just as I was thinking, a brain suddenly popped out from the pit, full of flesh on my face, and my eyes were filled with greedy light. I was shocked. Before he could open his mouth, I jumped up suddenly and the crowbar hit his brain directly. The guy reacted quickly and hid from his side, but I still hit the shoulder and let out a scream. I didn't give him a chance to breathe, so I rushed up and kicked him in the chest, kicked him into the pit, and then turned around and ran away. Catch him. Don't let him run away. The roar of iron claws came from behind, and the barking of the strange dog. I didn't look back and ran wildly, stepping on gravel and iron skin under my feet, making a harsh sound. I am familiar with the terrain of the ruins, and I choose small paths and narrow alleys to try to throw them away. But the help was obviously not a vegetarian. My steps kept following, and I was blowing over my ears and flew over, which scared me to sweat. After running for about 10 minutes, I finally got into a deserted sewer, which was smelly, but I could hide. I gasped against the wall of the tube, pressing my hand on the metal shell inside the bag, and my heart was still pounding. What exactly is this thing? What is worthy of such a big fight between Haywin's men? Could it be that they had known that there were treasures in this ruins for a long time, and they were waiting for people to dig them? Just as Usi's mind, a sound of metal collisions suddenly came from afar, as if someone was hitting something. I felt tight in my heart, held the crowbar tightly, and touched it forward with my hands. After turning a corner, a broken repair room appeared in front of me, and there was a half-person and half-mechanical guy standing inside, facing me, repairing a bunch of broken parts. His right arm was completely mechanical, and hesitated a hissing air pressure, and his left leg was also transformed into a metal limb. He was limp when walking, but his movements were unusually flexible. "Who is there? Don't hide it, I hear you gasping." The guy didn't reply, his voice was low, with a mechanical echo. I was stunned for a moment. I didn't expect his ears to be so sensible, but seeing that he had no intention of being enemies, I simply stood up and said with a crowbar, "I'm just passing by, I'm not malicious." "Who are you?" He turned over and showed a face full of scars. His left eye was also covered with a red mechanical eye. He glanced at me and grinned. "Passed by? Who on the Wasteland will pass by this ghost place? My name is Iron, a scavenger, and specializes in repairing and refining. What about you? It looks like you are being chased by a dog, what's going on?" I hesitated for a moment, but seeing that he was not like a black man, I simply told the matter briefly. Of course I didn't mention the metal shell. After hearing the iron, I clicked a little, as if I had seen this. The black man helps a crazy dog, it's nothing strange if you see someone. You are very happy. If you touch me, you would have been skinned and cramped by them. I curled my lips, thinking that this guy was very tough, but he didn't look bad, and he might be able to help him. So I tried to ask, "Is your place safe?" "I want to take a break," so I asked, "Do you know what is special?" The iron lit his eyes and mechanical eyes flashed the red light, as if seeing through my little thoughts. "Special things? Boy, what is special in the Wasteland? But I'll tell you, don't touch things that you don't know, some things can kill you. If you really want to know, go find Grandma Hueying, who lives in the Rain Valley beside you, you know everything." Gray Shadow Grandma? I glanced at her and heard this name. There were many rumors about her on the Wasteland, saying that she was an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years and knew all the secrets, but she had a strange temper. Not many people who saw her could come back alive. The iron slammed the head and threw me a half-full bottle of pure water. Yes, it's her. If you really have a sacrificial pie, go and try it. But I would like to remind you first that the place in the Radiator Valley is not something to play with. There are so many different creatures like dogs. You don't have any skills, so don't want to come out alive. I took the water and took a sip, feeling a little hesitant. I went to Rain Valley to find Grandma Hueying, which sounded like I was looking for death, but the weight of the metal shell in the bag kept reminding me that this thing was not simple, and I might have anything to do with the scavenger legend mentioned in the news. If I could figure out where it came from, I might not have to live such a worry-free life. Thank you, I'm going to do it. I stood up and gave him the Aquarius. I'll consider it. Can you hide here with me? Haywan's helper is probably still moving outside. The iron hunched his shoulder and pointed to a pile of rags in the corner. Just, don't mess with my things. But I won't help you in vain. If you have any valuable parts, you can eat them, and we will beat them up. I smiled, my heart was a little warm. It is difficult to meet someone on this wasteland who doesn't directly snatch your things. I ordered the head, took out the broken box from my bag, and threw it to him. So, this thing is for you, it's rent. The iron connected the instrument panel and his eyes lit up, muttering, it's okay, it's useful. Then he turned around and continued to swell his parts, without paying attention to me. I leaned against the rag in the corner, closed my eyes and pretended to rest, and my hands kept pressing the metal shell in my bag. My heart was so terrible that my brain was full of the light of the blue crystal, and the gray shadow mother-in-law mentioned by the iron. Life on the wasteland has never been easy, but this time, I feel like I have stepped into a bigger trouble. But being trouble means chance, right? If this thing can really change something, I might really change something from a scavenger to something different. The outside sound is still calling, and occasionally you can hear the barking of the remote dog. I opened my eyes quietly, looked at the busy back of the iron, touched the things in my bag, gritted my teeth, and made a decision in my heart. Radiation Valley, Gray Shadow Mother-in-law, no matter how dangerous it is, I have to go there. You can't just scoop up in the ruins and wait to be bitten to death by the black dog, right? After resting for about half an hour, I stood up, patted the dust on my body, and said to the iron, brother, I have to leave. Thank you for taking it in. There's a chance to come back. I'll ask you to have a bottle of unexpired wine. The iron head didn't turn back and slapped his mechanical arm. Okay, don't die. Remember, go northwest of the Radiation Valley, be careful on the road, don't be gnawed by the butt by the mutant rat. I grinned, carried my bag, held the crowbar tightly, and drilled out of the sewer. The sky outside was still so gray, and there was still a strange smell in the wind, but I felt like I couldn't describe it, like, expecting it. After being mixed up on the wasteland for so many years, I still felt that there seemed to be something waiting for me in front of me. When I came out of the sewer, it was already dark. The night on the wasteland was more dangerous than during the day. The radiant cloud blocked the moonlight, and the surroundings were as dark as being blown by ink. I could only rely on the broken flashlight in my hand to illuminate the road ahead. The flashlight came from the ruins. The battery had no electricity for a long time, and the light was shaking, as if it was about to turn off at any time. I tightened the rag bag on my back. The weight of the metal shell inside made my shoulders a little sore, but I didn't dare to relax in my heart. I said correctly that the place in Radiator Valley is not something I can do, but I don't have to choose. If I don't understand the secret of this thing, I guess I can't even save my life. Northwest direction, Radiation Valley. I read it silently in my brain, adjusted the direction, and began to strode towards the ghostly place I was talking about. The road on the waste soil is never easy to walk. The foot is covered with pitted gravel and raw iron pieces. Occasionally, I can step on a vine of two different plants, which is sticky and as if it is alive. When I step on it, I will make a low hiss sound, which makes me jump tightly. The scent of radiant fog was so irritating that my nose was irritated. I pulled the rag and covered it on my face, barely slapped it, but my eyes were still blown a little painful. After about 2 hours of walking, some strange marks began to appear far away. The soil on the ground turned dark red, as if it was burned by something, and there was a pungent smell in the air, which was even heavier than the burnt wire in the ruins. I felt a little nervous and knew that this should be the edge of the radiation valley. The radiation concentration here is so high that ordinary people have to vomit blood in just a few minutes. Although I have been plaguing the soil for many years and my body is a little resistant to radiation, I don't dare to be careless. I took out an old radiation detector from my bag. This thing was changed from the black market before. Although it was not very strong, I could at least roughly measure the value. The finger jumped and stopped in a reluctantly acceptable range. I relaxed my voice, but still accelerated my pace. I wanted to find Gray Shadow's mother-in-law early and ask the metal shell clearly. The more you go, the more different the surrounding environment becomes. The dark red soil on the ground began to produce some small bubbles, as if something was boiling underneath, and you could still hear some low roars everywhere, which kept numbing the skin. I held the crowbar tightly, my palms were covered in sweat, and my eyes were swollen, for fear of a different creature from some corner. The changes on the wasteland are not a joke. Some are as big as a hill, some are as fast as the wind. Whenever I encounter one, I guess I have to explain it to myself. Just as Usi was thinking, a broken camp suddenly appeared in front of him. Several crooked tents were built with waste iron and rags, and there were piles of burnt bones next to them, like the skeletons of some animal. I snaked my eyebrows. It seemed like someone had lived there, but now it was quiet and there was no ghost. I walked over carefully, my steps were extremely light, and the crowbar in my hand was ready to smash it down at any time. The tent was full of broken pieces, and several raw iron cans were scattered on the ground, and some rags seemed to be scattered in a hurry. I was about to look through if there was anything worth it when I suddenly stepped on a hard thing under my feet. When I looked down, I saw that it was a broken mechanical part with dry blood on the edge. I was shocked and squatted down tightly. I looked around. After confirming that there was no silence, I used a crowbar to slam the soil next to me. As a result, I turned out a piece of broken arms. The flesh was almost gone, but there were still several metal wires connected to the bones, as if they had been transformed. My stomach swelled up and pulled the soil back tightly, and my heart was filled with worries. What exactly happened here? Is it the scouts or the different creatures? No matter what it is, I don't want to stay for too long. I stood up and was about to leave. A low smile suddenly came from a distance, like the sound of an old lady, and the sand rubbed like sandpaper. I turned around with a sudden energy, and the light of the flashlight swept over, but I didn't see anything. The laughter continued, as if it was coming from the ground, which made my heart feel irritated. I gritted my teeth and shouted loudly, "Who is there? Don't be a god or a ghost, there are some people out." The laughter stopped, and the air suddenly calmed down, so calm that I could hear my heartbeat. After a few seconds, a hunched figure walked out from the shadow behind the tent. It was wrapped in a pile of broken cloth, covered with patterns on its face, its eyes were as cold as two lost grapes, and it was leaning on a bent iron stick in its hand, and it sounded cracking when walking. I felt tight in my heart, held the crowbar tightly, took a step back, and asked in a low voice, "Who are you?" The old lady grinned, revealing her black teeth, and her smile made people feel cold. "Little guy, you're not a little boy. You dare to enter the Rain Valley alone, and you dare to shout to me. I am Grandma Hueying, the owner of this place. What's the matter if you look for me?" I was stunned for a moment, but I didn't expect to meet the real owner soon, but looking at her like this, I would tell you that the old monster who had lived for hundreds of years would not match the number. However, there are all kinds of strange things on the wasteland, and I dare not be careless. I said in a low voice, "I heard you know a lot of secrets, especially about the legend of scavenging. I have something, I want to ask you to take a look." Gray Shadow's mother-in-law raised her eyes, as if she could see through my thoughts, and she pointed. "Things? What? Take them to me and take a look. But I would like to remind you first, I am not in vain. After reading the things, you have to answer me a condition. My heart sank. There was no free lunch on the Wasteland. This old lady was not a fuel-efficient light at first glance, but now I don't have any choice. I can't run around with this metal shell and wait for the black people to come and snatch it. I gritted my teeth, took out the metal shell from my bag, and came to her. It's this one, and it will shine when I find it, as if I were alive. Do you know what this is? Gray Shadow's mother-in-law took the metal shell, her fingers trembled and touched the symbol on it, and a strange light suddenly flashed in her eyes. She muttered something in a low voice, as if she was talking to herself, and her voice was so low that I couldn't hear it clearly. After a long time, she raised her head and the smile on her face became even more distorted. Little guy, your energy is really good. This is the energy core and the product of ancient technology. It is said to be related to the scavenger legend. Where did you get it? I didn't answer directly, and said vaguely, the ruins are almost dead. You said this has something to do with the legend of scavengers. What's going on? Can you tell me clearly? Gray Shadow's grandma smiled hee-hee and gave me the metal shell, shaking her head. Tell me clearly? Little guy, the secret is not something you can say casually. If you want to know more, you have to help me do something. There is an old man in the deep part of the radiation valley, and there is a piece of things like my core hidden inside. I am old and can't walk. If you go and get it back, I will tell you how to use this thing. I snaked my eyebrows and wondered in my heart. The old lady was not at a glance at it. The place where the deep radius valley was so high that it could cook people. There were so many different creatures like dogs. Going there to get something is simply a death. But if she didn't answer, she probably wouldn't tell the truth, so I ran away in vain this trip. I hesitated for a moment and asked, where is that tragedy? What's the danger? I don't want to die in vain. Grandma Hueying pointed to the northwest direction and her voice was low. Walking in for another 3 days, you will see a collapsed underground facility. The entrance is blocked by a pile of waste irons. I don't know what is inside, but I know that the radiation in that place can damage the brain. You'd better prepare some protective equipment. A different creature? There are too many, and the air is good and the air is bad. Just think you are unlucky. I felt cold in my heart, but looking at her fearless look, I knew it would be impossible not to answer. I clicked my head and gritted my teeth and said, okay, I'll go. But you have to give me some useful things first, whether it's protective equipment or weapons. You can't let me die empty-handed, right? Gray Shadow's mother-in-law smiled, as if she had expected that I would say this, and took out an old anti-radiation mask from behind and threw it to me. Take it, this thing can be a little radiant, but don't expect too much. Also, be careful on the road. The helper of Heian has also been wandering in the valley recently. I guess I have heard a lot of news. Don't be caught by them as a fat sheep. I took the mask and was surprised. The black man has come too. How do they know? Gray Shadow's mother-in-law was jokingly and didn't answer positively, but just smiled loudly. There is no secret on the Wasteland, little guy. Go and get the things back and I will tell you the core truth. Remember, don't play with flowers, my eyes are poisonous. I didn't say anything more, stuffed my mask into my bag, turned around and walked in the direction she pointed. I felt awkward in my heart. I always thought that the old lady was hiding something, but now I couldn't think too much, so I could only take one step at a time. The wind in the radiation valley became colder and colder, making people's bones hurt. I put on a mask and held a crowbar tightly, speeding up my pace. In the next 3 days, it will be a slaughter. I hadn't walked far away and encountered the first wave of different creatures, a group of things that looked like mice but had cats. Their eyes were red like blood, and their teeth were so sharp that they could bite through the iron skin. I finally got rid of them, and a few blood marks were caught on my body, and I felt so painful that I was sweating coldly. The radiation concentration is getting higher and higher. Although the mask can hit it, it still feels like the brain is sucked, as if someone has knocked it over. I still picked up a few broken parts on the way, so I could barely change the food, but I didn't care about these things at all. My whole heart was the secret that the slut and the gray-shadowed mother-in-law told. On the evening of the third day, I finally saw the underground facility, she said. The entrance was indeed blocked by a pile of waste irons, and there were some broken mechanical slaughterings scattered beside it, as if it had been removed. I used a crowbar to pry the waste iron a little bit, which made me sweat a lot and finally cleared a way to go. It was so dark inside that I couldn't see my 5 fingers. The light from the flashlight shone through, so I could only see some raw pipes and broken instruments. The air was full of musty smell and radiant pungent breath. I took a deep breath and walked in carefully, stepping in every step very lightly, for fear of being surprised. After walking about 10 meters, a large hall suddenly appeared in front of him. A huge metal container was placed in the center. The surface was filled with symbols similar to those on the metal shell. There were also several broken crystals scattered beside it, and blue light was shining. I was delighted and knew that this should be what Grandma Hueying wanted, but when I was about to go and get it, a sudden burst of footsteps came from behind, and a few rough voices called, "Z. Call, that kid is indeed here. Grab him and don't let him take away anything." It was the sound of the Iron Claw, and he rushed in with a helping Hei-Yan's subordinate. I felt tight in my heart, hid tightly behind the container, held a crowbar in my hand, and my brain flew quickly. It seems that the Gray Shadow's mother-in-law has no right, and the black-haired man has indeed set his sights on this place, but I didn't expect them to come so quickly. Now I can't run away, I can only fight. I gritted my teeth, took out a piece of broken parts from my bag, threw them at the other side, and made a bang sound, which really attracted their attention. At that side. "Chase!" The Iron Claw roared and rushed towards the direction of the sound. I took the opportunity to come out from the back of the container, quickly lifted up a piece of luminous crystal fragments, stuffed them into the bag, and ran towards another exit. But after running a few steps, a sound of gun came from behind, and Zebo brushed my shoulder and flew over, causing me to almost fall. "Don't run, little bastard." The sound of the Iron Claws was getting closer and closer, and I didn't look back. I gritted my teeth and slid into a narrow passage, with gravel under my feet, and I stumbled. The passage was so dark that the flashlight could not shine far, but I could only push forward with my head and pray in my heart that I would not hit any strange creature. After running for about a few minutes, the sound of my feet behind me was finally getting smaller. I leaned against the wall and gasped, pressing my hand on the crystal fragments in my bag, and my heart was still pounding. What exactly is this thing? How big a fight is the one who deserves such a black fight? And Grandma Hueying, how many secrets does she know? While gasping, a low buzzing sound suddenly came from a distance, as if some machine had started, and a faint blue light came out from the depth of the passage, exactly the same as the light from the metal shell I had in my bag. I was shocked, holding the crowbar tightly, and wondering if I wanted to go over and take a look. But the Iron Claws might catch up with people at any time. I didn't have much time to get into it, so I could only grit my teeth and touch the light. There will never be less trouble on the waste soil, but this time, I feel like I have stepped into a bigger pit. But no matter what, living is a sacrifice. Maybe behind this blue light, there is something that can change everything. I leaned against the wall of the passage, panting like a dog that was about to break off, and I could hardly hold the crowbar in my hand. The deep buzz sound of the deep passage became clearer and clearer, and the blue light became brighter, as if calling me over. My heart was drumming, and the Iron Claws might catch up with people at any time, but the light and sound were all related to the metal shell in my bag. If I don't figure it out, I guess I can't even save my life. I gritted my teeth, wiped the sweat from my face, held the crowbar tightly, and touched the blue light. The passage was so dark that the light of the flashlight had long been shattering, and could only illuminate a small area under the feet. The air was full of musty smell and radiant pungent breath, which made my nose feel irritated, but I didn't have time to steer these. Although the sound of the footsteps was a little far away, the rough and wild claws still came from time to time, like a dog's skin cream that could not be removed. After walking about 10 meters, the passage suddenly opened and a huge underground space appeared in front of it, like some old experiment room. The walls were covered with raw pipes and broken tans. There were piles of broken glass and metal fragments scattered on the ground. A huge circular cylindrical device stood in the center, with dense symbols engraved on the surface, almost exactly the same as the one on the metal shell I had in my bag. The blue light came from the top of this device, flickering light and dark, as if there was life. Both. What's this? I couldn't help but mutter, staring at the device with my heart beating as fast as a drum. This place is not an ordinary ruin at first glance, but it may be the kind of ancient technology that Grandma Hueying said. I walked over carefully, stepping on the broken glass under my feet, and a click sound made, which was particularly harsh in this space. As I got closer to the device, I found that there were still fragments of fragments scattered around it that were similar to the crystals in the bag, each of which was lit by blue light, as if they were talking to each other. I squatted down and picked up a piece of fragments. When my fingers touched me, I immediately felt a cold current rushing over my arms, exactly the same as when I first touched the metal shell. I was so surprised that I almost threw away the thing, but I still held it tightly and stuffed it into my bag. No matter how it feels, this thing is definitely not simple, and it may be the key to unraveling the secret of the scavenger legend. Just as I was about to squeeze a few more pieces, a sudden burst of stomping sound came from behind, and the broken throat of the iron claw started to sound again. I found that little bastard. Just in front, don't let him run away. I felt nervous in my heart, hid behind the device, held my breath, and my brain flew quickly. Now I can't run away. This helper is carrying a different dog, and his nose is so strong that he can't hide for long. The only way is to fight and take action before they are not completely surrounded. I touched the dagger on my waist, looked at the crowbar in my hand, and had an idea in my mind. He took out a piece of broken parts from his bag and threw them at the other side. The bang sound really attracted their attention. At that side. Chase! The iron claw roared and rushed towards the sound with several people. I took the opportunity to come out from the back of the device, quickly traversed to the entrance, hid behind a pile of broken pipes, staring at their static. The iron claws brought 5 or 6 people, each full of facial flesh, holding a broken gun or iron stick in his hands, and some teeth of different creatures were hanging on his body, like a trophy. One of the guys was holding a mutant dog. The thing was as red as a wolf, his eyes were red like blood, his nose kept sniffing, he glanced at me, and let out a low roar. I was shocked, my head tightly closed, and my palms were covered in sweat. No matter how spiritual your nose is, it's useless. Let's talk about it after finding someone. The iron claws kicked the dog 1 foot, and then turned to his head to say to his subordinates, "Look for it in a different place, this place is not big, and that kid can't run far away. Find him and knock over something," the boss of the black man said. "This thing can make us dominate the wasteland." After hearing this, my heart became even heavier. It seems that Heian had known that there was a baby here. The help of the iron claw was not to chase me by chance, but to come and snatch things. I gritted my teeth and decided not to sit and wait. While they were scattered, I quietly touched a group of people behind me. The man was looking down at a pile of broken cages and didn't notice me. I held my breath, jumped up suddenly, and the crowbar hit his back spoon. He hummed and fell to the ground without having time to scream. I dragged him tightly into the shadow, lifted up the iron stick he had fallen, and felt my hands trembling, but I didn't have time to be scared. "Why don't the third brother see?" Another guy's voice came from a distance, with a little doubt. My heart beat faster, I switched my position tightly, and hid behind another pile of pipes. The iron claws blew a sound and walked towards the side with people. The roar of the changed dog became more and more urgent, as if it had heard something. I knew I couldn't hide for long, so I gritted my teeth and rushed out of my hiding place, leaving the guy closest to me. "It's him," the man shouted, and the iron stick in my hand had already hit his shoulder. He screamed and fell to the ground. I didn't stop, turned around and ran towards the entrance of the passage. The sound of guns sounded from behind, and Zebo swept over my ears, making me sweat. The roar of the iron claws followed and said, "Catch him. Don't let him run away." I didn't look back and ran wildly, stepping on gravel and iron skin under my feet, making a harsh sound. I just touched the terrain of the passage, and I chose narrow road diamonds and tried to get rid of them. But the mutant was too fast, and the roar was getting closer and closer, and I could even hear the sound of its claws grabbing the ground. I was about to be caught up. A fork suddenly appeared in front of me. I chose a random line and rushed in and found that this was a dead end. The front was blocked by a pile of collapsed stones. "It's over." I leaned against the wall and gasped. My heart sank halfway. The stomp of the iron claws behind them is getting closer and closer, and the roar of the changed dog is almost right next to the ear. I turned around, holding a tight iron stick in my hand, and prepared to fight a fish to break it. At this moment, the metal shell in the bag suddenly emitted a low buzzing sound, and the blue light shone through the cloth bag, illuminating a strange light on my face. "What's the situation?" I was stunned for a moment, looked down at the things in my bag, and found that not only were the metal shells, but the few crystal fragments that were just shaking were also glowing, as if they were calling each other. A thought suddenly flashed in my brain: will this thing have any special functions? Could it help me get sleepy? I gritted my teeth, took out the metal shell, held it in my hand, closed my eyes, and thought about the thought of help me. I don't know if it's wrong, but the metal shell in my hand suddenly became hot, and the blue light suddenly lit up, and then a strange feeling spread throughout my body from my palm, as if the blood in my body was boiling. I opened my eyes quietly and found that the wound on my arm was actually slowly fitting, and the feeling of being tortured by radiation on my body was also much lighter. What's even more, I felt that I was much stronger and my hand holding the iron stick was as stable as a stone. "Candle, what is this? Superpower?" I muttered in a low voice. Without thinking too much, the iron claw and the strange dog had already been thrust in front of me. The dog opened its bloody mouth and rushed over directly. I instinctively lifted the iron stick and slapped it. Unexpectedly, I smashed it directly and threw it on the ground and made a scream. Zizhu was stunned for a moment, and immediately said, "Little bastard, you have some ability. Brothers, come on, kill him." I felt a slight in my heart, so I stopped running away and rushed forward to fight against them. I don't know if it was the influence of the metal shell, but I was so powerful that I could hit the iron stick and even their weapons could be knocked off directly. After a few rounds, the iron claws fell down, and only he was standing, looking at me in shock, as if he had seen a ghost. "You, what monster are you?" The iron claw took a step back, and the guns in his hands were shaking. I ignored him, gasped, stared at him with a tight breath, and only had a thought in my heart: I couldn't let him go back to report. I rushed over and hit his leg with a stick. He screamed and fell to the ground. I took the opportunity to snatch it up, pressed the dagger against his neck, and said in a low voice, "Tell me, why does the black man need this? Say, otherwise I will cut you now." The iron claws were sweating heavily, and he said tremblingly, I don't know the specific one. The boss just said that this thing is a remote technology that can control the energy field of the Wasteland. Whoever takes it can be the boss. I really don't know anything else, please give me." I sneered. Although I was not sure whether what he said was true, judging by his attitude, I probably couldn't ask anything. I knocked him with the handle of the dagger, then quickly searched them, picked up a few squirts and a bottle of purified water, and turned away. Holding the metal shell, my heart was awkward. What was that power just now? Is this something for me, or is it hidden in my body? There is also the energy field that controls Wasteland mentioned by Iron Claw, which sounds like a big thing that can change everything. I flashed my gray shadow's strange face in my brain, and decided to go back to find her first, hand over the things, and ask all of them to go and go. When we left the road, it was already dawn, and the wind in the radiation valley was still so cold that it made people's bones hurt. I was wearing a torn mask and carrying a heavy bag, and walked back step by step. I encountered several different creatures on the road, but I don't know if it was the influence of the metal shell. Every time I could force myself to take it off, and even fucked a different rat. Although there were a few more injuries on my body, at least my life was still there. 3 days later, I finally returned to the ruined land of Grandma Hueying. She was still the same hunched look, sitting on a pile of rags, her eyes squinted, as if she had known that I would come back. Without saying anything, I threw the scraped crystal fragments in front of her and gasped, saying, I took the thing back. Tell me, what is this thing? Also, have you known about what happened to me just now? Grandma Gray Shadow took the fragments, and a greedy light flashed in her eyes, and grinned, little guy, your life is very strong. Okay, I'll tell you the truth. This is the energy core of ancient technology. It is said to be the radiant energy field left by the Creator before the nuclear war, which can control the wasteland. Whoever controls it, can decide the fate of this wasteland. As for what happened to you, that's because your blood is not simple. You are the descendant of the Creator. This core shares the veins with you and will awaken the power within your body. I was stunned for a moment, my brain couldn't turn over. What? The descendant of the Creator? Why does this sound like nonsense? I'm just a broken man, where's the bloody blood? Gray Shadow's grandmother shook her head and said in a low voice, believe it or not, but it is no coincidence that this core has chosen you. The saying on the wasteland, the scavenger legend, refers to people like you who can find the truth from the ruins and become invincible. However, power is not given in vain. If you want to use it, you have to pay for it. She said, pointing to her eyes, and there seemed to be some secret hidden in her silenced pupils. My heart sank. I always thought she was talking, but before I could ask, she continued, Hei Yan wants this core too. He has many people and great strength. You can't fight him alone. If you want to survive, you have to find a helper. I know that there is someone who can help you, irons, scavengers, and scavengers. Your skills are good. Go find him and join forces, or maybe you can deal with Hei Yan. I pointed it, although I didn't believe her completely, but the guy in the iron is really good, and I might be able to help. I put away the metal shell, stood up and said, okay, I'll go find the iron. But this is not over, you know more than that. When I come back, let's have a good chat. Gray Shadow's grandmother smiled and said nothing, just snatching her hands, as if she was snatching me away. I turned away, carried my bag and walked towards the hiding place of the iron sewer. The red soil in the radiation valley was still bubbling under the feet, and the roar of different creatures continued, but I felt in my heart that I couldn't tell. Life on the wasteland has never been easy, but this time, I really seemed to have stepped into a situation that could change everything. A few days later, I finally returned to the iron repair room. He was still the half-human and half-mechanical model, bulging a bunch of broken parts. When he saw me, Mechanic flashed his eyes and grinned, boy, aren't you dead? It seems that he has picked up a lot of good things. How about it, is the radiation valley fun? I was not in the mood to joke with him, so I sat down and briefly talked about the past few days, including the metal shell, the strange things in the wild and the words of the Gray Shadow Grandma. After hearing the iron, he was silent for a while, and then he pointed out, it's not simple to hear. But there are all kinds of strange things on the wasteland, I believe you. It's not easy to mess with the crazy dog. You must be unable to fuck anyone. I'll do it with you. We'll work with you, and we may be able to make a little tranquil. I relaxed and grinned, thank you, brother. What should we do next? Go and fight hard with Heiren? The iron slammed the head, took out an old map from a pile of broken walls, and opened it. Don't be anxious first, the black nest is in the black market in the east, and it is as much as a dog, so we are looking for death. We have to do some equipment first, repair and supplement, and then find out his background. I heard that what energy field he is looking for recently, it probably has something to do with your core, so we have to be ahead of him. I clicked the head and looked at the black market position marked on the map, and a fire ignited in my heart. Black Beetle, we have to calculate this account carefully. Although the days on the wasteland are bitter, this time, I not only want to live, but also let this wasteland remember my name. The iron patted my shoulder, and the mechanical arm made a hiss sound, as if it was a blow to me. The sound outside is still urging, and the radiating cloud covers the sky, but I know that the road ahead will be more risky and worth a try than at any time before.